Who am I? What am I doing here? Why am I in this basket? Am I in a stream? Hi there, my name's Charles Ray Dawson. I am the Associate Broker Residential Sales Manager of ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 212. All right, let's get started. So I'm really having one of those things this week where it's like, what day is it? And I walked in and I just started setting this whole thing up on autopilot. And it's just like, yeah, it's Thursday. Okay, so got karaoke tomorrow. Just got done talking to the lender. Escrow we got going on. I got one of these lenders, all right? And you've met him. His name's Jeff. And he's just, every once in a while, he'll just like drop a bomb on you without dropping a bomb on you. He's like, yeah, so I'm looking at these guys' insurance and whatnot. And this is really going to push his debt to income ratio up. And, I don't think I calculated this much in, and we might be exceeding his debt to income. Like, oh, have you been to that restaurant on 7th Street in Missouri? And I'm like, whoa, back to the DTI. I mean, so you don't just do that to me when I'm driving into work. I'm dodging traffic and looking at construction workers, trying to figure out what exactly they're doing. And next thing you know, that deal might not be a deal. Oh, have you tried this restaurant? So that's been my morning. So what else do we got going on? It is wrapping up the end of February. We are a sixth of the way through the year. All you guys are hoping to have a good first quarter. Well, you got a month left to pull it out of the fire, guys. So I'm just practicing my speech. I'm going to give my training classes showing up at 2:00 today. So, it's interesting how November, I'm always talking about business planning and what are you going to do next year and how are you going to get the work and this and that and the other thing. And escrow companies like to do classes on business planning in January and February. So hey guys, let's get in front of the whole thing. Let's get in front of, we know it's coming. Let's get some work done beforehand so we're not caught off guard or running with the rest of the herd. And then sure enough, one of my agents called me and said, I just wondering about business planning. I'm like, oh yeah, what a great idea. How would you like to come and we'll have a conversation about it, Actually, that one's one of my better agents. So, and by better, I mean she actually makes the house money. All right. Which, honestly, from a cold, heartless broker side, that's all we care about. Now, I care about the agents, and I care about them bettering themselves and being a better person and agent and everything else. But when it comes down to brass tacks, it is all about the numbers and what your debt to income ratio is and what the numbers are doing out in the world. And are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? Insurance, what the hell is going on with insurance? My client's getting quotes on insurance and it's substantial. We're talking about $225 to $275 a month to cover a house. And we're in Arizona. We don't get hurricanes. We don't have earthquakes. We do have floods in areas, but that's what we have flood insurance for. We don't have fires. Actually, we do have fires, but not in downtown Phoenix. But our rates are really going up. And I'm starting to wonder if it's not like that Obamacare thing when they pushed all the 20-year-olds into forcing them to get insurance, their health insurance, even though majority of them are relatively healthy, but they needed that money to pay for the sick people because that's how insurance works. So are we in Arizona getting charged more for our insurance so they can charge California less? Build the wall right up the Colorado River. Just saying. All right, so that's the way this week has been. And let's just go to the numbers because these are actually really sort of cool. Hold on for a second. And here are the numbers for February 26, 2025. Actives this week were 23,420. That's up 325 from the week before and the highest since I've started charting this back in 2020. Our new listings were 2,615, up 41. Our contracts were at 2,653, up 318. that's the kind of numbers that we're used to seeing. All right. Closings were 1,555. Coming soon to an MLS near you are 865. Our supply right now is at 93.4, which is just the bottom end of where we should be. All right. Our demand is at 78.9, which is a little bit less than we'd like to see. And that gives us a comfort report number right now of 84.5, showing a buyer's market. If we break it down to the individual cities and whatnot, okay, down across the board. That's what happens when you don't have buyers and too much inventory. All right. Our biggest loser so far, month over month was Fountain Hills. They're down 15%, 119.9. All right. Our leader of the pack, and definitely in seller's territory still, is Chandler, followed by Tempe, Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, don't care, Gilbert, Fountain Hills, and Phoenix. Then going into our balanced market, we have Cave Creek, Mesa, Glendale, Avondale, all right, and Peoria at the bottom end of that. And then looking into our buyer's market is Goodyear, Queen Creek, Surprise, Buckeye, and Maricopa. So I wanted to show you another chart, okay, because we're going to be a little numbers heavy today, let's be honest. This is something that Cromford put out, and it's definitely in the wheelhouse of things I like to talk about. 2-year annual change in annual average square foot. Closed listings, single family, detached. This is how much prices have gone up, price per square foot, right, over the last 2 years. You can see Paradise Valley up at the top, all right, 33.5. All right, so don't pay no attention to that, all right, because those are the millionaires and billionaires, all right, with the very large $7, $8, $9 million houses, right? And they're doing there's not a lot of them, and they have built quite a bit of them out there. So it only takes a handful of very large new builds to, throw that number askew. All right, but then we have Scottsdale, Fountain Hills, and Carefree. Okay, these are also really big gainers with 16, 15, 14% for those. I wanted to point out one here, Youngtown. All right, Youngtown is one of those tiny little communities that I'm always pushing people on, but it's out there. Nobody's heard about it. It's south of Sun City. I call it the poor man's Sun City. Little 2-bedroom, casitas, cottages, running anywhere between 900 to 1,100 square feet. They're little retirement homes, right? But they're not in the Sun City system, which means you're not paying HOAs, you're not paying rec hall fees, you're not doing any of the other stuff. But as you can see, people as they retire, looking at the boomers, looking for a place to retire to, and they don't want to write the big check to the Sun City community, they look at Youngtown, and that's why they've gone up that amount at 12.9%. All right, and then we got Rio Verde, Phoenix. Okay, all right, is actually is showing there at 12.6. Right. Very, very good for them, all right? Then Cave Creek, Wickenburg. Look at the very, very bottom. Arizona City, okay, actually lost value in the last 2 years. All right, they're at 1.1. Above that is Tonopah, Sun City West, Sun City, Florence, Maricopa, Casa Grande. Now, most of the places are way out on the outskirts, right? Sun City and Sun City West, there's not a lot of turnover and stuff like that. And let's say, remember the charges that I was telling you about for the HOA and the rec center fees? That tends to push down how much just like an HOA. You have an HOA that's running $500 a month and you're not getting anything for it. Lender, that pushes down the overall value of your property because a buyer coming in has to add that cost of the HOA on top of everything else. Well, that's a suppression that you see out there in Sun City and Sun City West, right? Casa Grande's out in the middle of the desert. I mean, nobody wants to live there. Same with Maricopa, right? Avondale, Buckeye, Coolidge Springs, right? So enter in the city, more desirable. People pay more to live there so they don't have to drive as far and they have more access to things, right? Outer areas still grow, but not as fast. Remember, traditionally, and I say this a million times, we should look at about a 2.5% appreciation. 2.5% is down here between Sun City and Sun City West. All right? Actually, now let's be honest with you. Okay, since I think this is showing the total year in 2 years, then it should be about 5. So go Coolidge, Surprise, Buckeye, Avondale, Mirage, right around in there. Living, Litchfield Park, Queen Creek, those areas, right? Anything up on here, I'm not saying that we're inflating a bubble or anything like that, but this is what happens when 200 people a day move to Arizona, right? Coming in for the jobs, coming in for the environment, or anything else. right? And we're out of space in Phoenix. They're really trying to keep going north, okay? But in fact, I would be interested in seeing how many of these cities on the top end are actually. I know Wickenburg's not, all right, but with the two freeways out there, it's easier to get to Wickenburg, so it's a little bit more desirable. Anthem, Eloy, Peoria. Is Peoria landlocked? I think it's open on the north side, or they did go all the way to Lake Pleasant. If anybody out there not from this area was looking at a map, you see that, Phoenix is like blocked in on the south by the mountains and the Indian Reservation, and they got Scottsdale and Tempe in one direction, they got Glendale, Peoria in the other direction, so they can only just keep going north, all right? At a certain point, they're going to get capped at the north, all right, probably by Anthem over here, all right? And once they are capped in, well, Phoenix doesn't get any more land. All right, so let's keep an eye out for those things. Places along the lines like Maricopa, Casa Grande, Surprise, Buckeye. There's a lot of desert they can build into. Same a little bit with like Mesa, right? Apache Junction, a lot of desert to build into. And I think it blocks you off is when you hit BLM land or Indian Reservation land. So, all right. So the other big numbers, and I did try to find a good chart on this or anything, and this is your warning order, boys and girls. Okay. Sound the sirens, all right? And I would not call this like the little meters going into the yellow, okay, but it might be red. Bonds, the 10-year and 3-year bonds, or 3-month bond. Anyways, the 10s and 3s, all right? One of them is a 10-year bond, and we all know that that's the one that we track when we are looking at interest rates on home loans, all right? What the 10-year does, home loans generally go. So interest rates have been going down on bonds. On the rates. My lenders are starting to quote to me 5s, right? With a buy down and with good credit and a whole bunch of stars aligning just perfectly. All right. But, 5s, right? And I've said as soon as you started hearing 5s and 6s, you're going to see this market blow up. And I think you're going to start seeing this market blow up. Here's the problem. And this is why I'm throwing up a warning, right? Two things. One, interest rates hit the 5s. People start quoting 5s. We're all calling people up and say, hey, now it's your time to buy. You can buy now. You couldn't 2 years ago, right? When the interest rates were at the 7. But now we're down into the 5s, and let's run the numbers. Insurance, spikes, aside, right? Now you're getting in the pricing point. Good news for everybody. But when the 10-year and the 3-year invert, okay, we get what's called an inversion of those two. All right. The 3-year, the 3 should have a lower interest rate than the 10. All right. Shorter term loans have lower interest rates than longer term loans. Not sure why that is. I'd rather lock in something, right? But those two have just passed each other over. Right? That's why I needed the chart so you could see what I'm talking about. Here's the issue when that happens. That is a red flag for a recession. So a lot of people think, oh, they dropped the interest rates to get us out of a recession, to spur growth, spur the economy, get people doing stuff. And that's correct. But that's the Fed rate, right? This right here, when you see those two bonds invert, and one's higher than the other than it should traditionally, this used to be the bellwether, the canary in the coal mine. Okay, here comes a recession. There's only one time in history that did not happen, and that was back in 2020. Now, you guys know I've been recording this for quite some time, all right? And I'm way early on back in the day, I would say we're in a recession. Nobody's calling it a recession, but we're in a recession, all right? And part of the data point that we were in a recession was that those rates had inverted. Now, we also had a whole bunch of COVID spending going on, right? And so that was artificially stimulating the economy. So we didn't have the appearance of a recession. If you think about it like this, if a recession is a cold, right, and one of the symptoms of having a cold is a high fever, right? If you're in an ice bath, well, you still got a cold. You just don't have the high fever. Right? So think of that how our last not recession was, right? Is that we had all the elements of a cold, but our fever was down, because we were in the ice bath, and that ice bath was the last bit of the COVID spending, right? Now we don't have the ice bath, right? So are we going into a recession? Is it going to last more than a quarter? Is it going to last 2 quarters? Are we just going to have a 1 quarter reduction as the numbers come in from wrapping up at 2024? Remember, these numbers, as you hear them the first time, like Case Shiller just came out, was talking about Arizona and Phoenix. I don't even follow Case Shiller because it's obsolete by the time they publish it. All right, the Case Shiller report that came about real estate, literally was September to December, and they brought it out in February. They're talking about the real estate business that happened on average in mid-November. All right, so I don't follow that. But with these other numbers that come out, they come up with this many jobs, this level of unemployment, and then they very quietly adjust those numbers afterwards. So 2024, we added all these jobs, and then we look at it later on, we didn't add that many jobs. All right, we just miscounted. All right, that's 6 months down the road. Nobody cares about those, and headline news is not going to lead that with that. We just suggested, and guess what? We actually were. So as we sit here looking at the real-time data, and that real-time data is the 10 and the 3, that's something that you can track on, okay? Except for 2020, which was weird because of COVID, right? So that's your little one-off. So good chance we're going into a recession. Good chance at the end of next month, right? The end of March, right? And we'll be getting the March numbers in early part of April. There's a really good chance that you say, hey, yeah, economy contracted. Right? There's a vibe for that, which puts you in a really weird situation. If you are a buyer or a seller and you've been waiting for the low interest rates, well, now we got the low interest rates, but now we're in the middle of a recession, which means everybody feels really uncomfortable about making any sudden changes. That's the fun dichotomy of real estate, boys and girls. This is, if you don't want a chaotic life, real estate is definitely not for you. Right? I think that's half the reason why federal employees are freaking out right now, because all of a sudden they have chaos in their life, and it's like for the rest of us, like we call that Tuesday, all right? But it's so I'm sitting here looking at this stuff and going, okay, how do you market in a recession? All right, how do you convince people it's a good time to buy right now if you're in a recession? Do you start looking at recession-resistant markets and start marketing to those people, like bartenders? Bartenders are pretty recession proof. All right. That kind of stuff. So police officers, government, I would normally say government employees right now, but now not so much, right? But still, it's interesting little situation we're going, and we're just wrapping up February. Right? So couple of things. It looks like all the big tariff talk that everybody was all wee-weed up about is starting to filter out. If you're following me on my Facebook page, I am starting to share a lot of videos from a home inspector, and not my home inspector. In fact, I was talking to my home inspector this week about this guy. This guy's bread and butter is he goes into new builds. All right. And he does not tell you the builder. He cannot tell you what builder he's inspecting. Although, if you're sharp-eyed, if you notice when he says the words, I can't tell you what builder I'm inspecting today, he's usually walking in front of a sign on the job site. So, anyway, so he's just going and showing some of the real shoddy work that's happening in these new builds, right? And remember, new builds are a brand new house. That does not mean they're perfect. I mean, I just had a 1976 house inspected today. It had a total of 66 punch items, right? And that's saying that the home inspector finds that, and it could be anything from, hey, this light socket is cross-polarized to, right, over here you got a little leak coming out of your sprinkler system, all the way up to there's a big gaping hole in the roof, right? But 66 is incredible. My jaw dropped when he said that. All right, fortunately, I wasn't in front of the client. I was like, whoa. All right. Really great, solid house. If I took that same inspector down to one of these new builds and turned him loose on a house that was ready to get turned over to the buyer, all right, I guarantee you there'd be more than 66 issues on there. All right. And this particular home inspector, who's the videos that I'm showing, really, really is calling out some of them. Some of them are like actually dangerous. Some of the stuff he's like mandated to report to the state. All right. So if you think you are going to go buy a new build house, all right, and that means that you're going to get a house with no faults whatsoever and everything's going to be perfect and you'll have all the warranties on all the appliances and because you're afraid of everything else, that's not the way things are right now. All right. So, like I said, my Facebook page is below. All right. You can click on that. All right. Every time I see one of those videos, I'll share it to my page just because it's fun. All right. Hey, while you're down there, like, share, subscribe. All right. I do need the love. All right. I don't know what my numbers or subscriptions are, but we're going to try to drive that up a little bit later on. Hopefully by making better videos that you find are more entertaining and more, informative. Is that the word I'm looking for? So a couple other things this week is I saw a pool cover that serves as a security barrier. Now, I'm always talking about watching your children, pets around the water. My biggest concern with this pool barrier is it acts like a trampoline. It turns your pool into the world's biggest waterbed. Right? So that's pretty cool kit. And as soon as I can figure out who the designer is of that, I will call that out because that's just a great idea. It's a pool cover that is completely secure. It has posts all the way around that are nice and flush, but you put this pool cover on and you can literally walk across it. You can walk across the pool cover, and it keeps a little heat in there in the winter months, keeps dirt and debris and everything out of it, but most importantly, keeps the children and pets out of the pool. All right. Meanwhile, I heard something we might get some rain next Wednesday. Anybody excited for that? So don't drive in anything flooded, all right? Work your circles, all right, and reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while just to check in on them, see how they're doing. It's called a buddy check. I encourage people to do that. And as of course, I want you guys to have a really great weekend. I'll be out showing houses.